After a week of sleepless nights and hitting refresh on vote tallies until our thumbs fall off, we can finally step back and start to process what just happened. So here to help me out with that is one of the smartest journalists out there, host of the Mehdi Hasan Show on Peacock, Mehdi Hasan. Mehdi Hasan, welcome to the show, man. It's so great to have you on.
Larry, thanks so much for having me. What a crazy week.
It is such a crazy week. And I wanted to ask you, because I know you became a citizen recently, but I love how you still kind of maintain an outsider's perspective, you know? Well, what does this week look like to you? Does this feel like a system that's like broken and in need of a makeover, or are we the envy of the world? Like how?
I think you know the answer to that question, Larry. Sadly, the United States of America is not the envy of the world when it comes to running elections or electing presidents. And that predates Trump. It's very easy to dump it all on Donald Trump. But you and I, you know, we're old enough to remember 2000, Bush versus Gore, 2016. I mean, two presidents were elected without winning the popular vote. And I think it's hilarious and depressing at the same time that the United States is the one country in the world where the guy with the most votes by millions has to wait several days to find out if he's won.
It really is crazy, you know. I think you made this point, I made it a couple of weeks ago, about how since '88, the Republican president has only won the popular vote once in 8 elections.
Yes.
Whereas the Democratic president won it every other time. Yet, they both have shared the 32 years in power, 16 each. Does that sound like a democracy to you, or should we come up with another term to define this minority rule that's going on here?
It is. You put your finger right on it. It is minority rule across the board.
Yeah.
You know, when they set up the government, Larry, not only were you not counted as a person, let's not forget that, but also at the same time, indeed, and we shouldn't. Yes. But not only was that the case, and me as well, but I was on the British side then, if you can go back that side.
Right.
But not only did they not consider black and brown people persons, but also California was, I don't know, off the top of my head, 2, 3, 4 times the size of Wyoming. Today, it's what, 30, 40, 50 times the size? It's ridiculous, right? You have this huge imbalance where people in some of these states like California are completely unrepresented. Nobody cares about what's happening in California. And yet all of our focus this week is on, you know, a bunch of swing states, your Georgia, your Arizona, your Nevada, et cetera. And it's just the whole system is skewed against, quote unquote, the majority, the will of the people. I heard Donald Trump saying for years, oh, the American people have spoken. Well, they spoke and we didn't listen to them in 2016. They spoke in 2000. Al Gore, we didn't listen to them. The court chose George Bush as the president. And this time around, of course, that was Donald Trump's plan. Master Bond villain. He laid it out very clearly. He knew he'd lose, but he said the courts will win it for me. Amy Coney Barrett will win it for me. That strategy hasn't worked at the time we're having this conversation.
He was definitely monologuing, as they said in The Incredibles, you know. You did this incredible thing, like you listed like 1,000 Trump lies, like in one breath. It was like one breath, it seemed like. It was unbelievable.
It was like 3 breaths.
Yes, it was 3 breaths. And it's clear, like I even think his supporters might admit he's a pathological liar. I mean, it's so clear. And yet, Mehdi, he got more votes now than he got in 2016. Like, how do you explain that? How is this fly attracting so much honey?
I mean, I would argue it's not honey that he's attracting.
That's true.
We can talk about that electoral. We've had a lot of post-mortems, and I'll hold my hand up. I've done it too here on Peacock in our election coverage, talking about how did he get more Latino votes in Texas and Florida? What happened with black men? And I would just say, now taking time to take a step back, I would say this. Number one, exit polls are notoriously unreliable. Let's wait and see what he actually got in terms of demographic breakdowns. Number two, he may have got a few more black men. He may have got a few more Latinos in Florida, but a majority of white people voted for him. A majority of white men and white women, if you believe the exit poll. Let's not forget where blame lies for Donald Trump. It's white people, I'm sorry to say. You know, I'm a Muslim, Larry. I spent the last 20 years being told, sort out your community, condemn extremism. Where are the moderate Muslims? Why is the Middle East so messed up? Well, it's time for our white brothers and sisters to say, what is going on in our communities? Why are so many people voting for a sociopath? Why are they saying openly anti-democratic things? Why is racism back in fashion? There's a serious accounting that has to be done. The only true thing, Larry, that Donald Trump has ever said in his life was he said, I could shoot someone in Fifth Avenue and I wouldn't lose a voter. And I think we've seen that this week.
Fact.
That was true.
Absolutely. Fact. You know, there's also repudiation of the left that goes beyond the cult of personality of Trump, that is steeped in this hatred for what they feel is an America that is running away from what they think America is. You know what I'm talking about, and it comes
100%,
out in some
100%.
issues too. What do you mean get rid of cops? What do you mean destroy capitalism? Do you think any of these types of things helps people to, kind of hold their nose and vote for Trump, or it's like, no, they're not holding their nose, Larry. They're breathing in.
We're way past nose pegs and holding noses when you're voting for the guy who's encouraging white supremacy from the White House.
Exactly.
And we shouldn't move away from that.
Yes.
I think we too easily move on from it. It's not normal, as you say, for someone like this to be re-elected. Well, to get a second, to go for re-election and get this many votes and this much support.
Yeah.
And I think, there is an argument. We know that the left enjoys circular firing squads. We know that. We know that the right have message discipline and get behind a neo-Nazi and will do whatever has to be taken to win. But the Democratic Party put up its most moderate candidate of all the guys and all the women who ran in the primaries. Joe Biden was the most quote unquote moderate. Yeah. They picked him. Let's not go after this is about the left. This is, that's nonsense.
Let me ask.
But let me just jump, Larry, very, very briefly, just on that. The left and the right. We often talk about far left, far right, putting pressure on the center.
Yes.
Let's be clear. The far left wants healthcare for all. The far right wants Nazis. They're not the same. Just
agree.
To be clear for our viewers watching.
Well, in fairness, they might want healthcare for Nazis. In fairness.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Nazis need healthcare. Of course.
They want them to be able to march. They're going to need that. Let me ask you this, also from a global perspective. Do you think Trump has done irrevocable damage to U.S. prestige? Was that something that was already on its way? I know you've intimated some of that. But I do believe, even with our faults, which we have a lot, America still was the country that a lot of, other countries look to, at least for leadership.
Yes. Americans for a long time have kind of been under an illusion on how the rest of the world sees their politics in particular. I've been living here 5 years, and I often say, the major reason you get away with this craziness of not having healthcare for everyone, of having guns in their masses on the streets, is because unfortunately, you don't really have an international context. So people don't realize this is not normal. I have to say to people, you know that no one else runs their elections like this. You know that no one else has gun laws like this. Yeah. No one else has a healthcare system like this. You have to keep pointing that out, that this is, when we talk about American exceptionalism, yes, it's exceptional in a bad way when it comes to healthcare and gun laws and democracy, sadly. And look, George W. Bush did the most damage of any American president I can think of on the international stage. 8 years of George W. Bush. Barack Obama started undoing some of that, although he had his own shoddy records in, with things like drone strikes, and Libya, and it wasn't all great plain sailing. But Trump has come and kind of taken George Bush and kind of done the George Bush record on steroids in terms of the international scene, in terms of how, Americans, allies. I mean, this is an American president who was literally laughed at at the United Nations General Assembly. They literally laughed at him. He had to stop and kind of look around. So is it irrevocable? Is it irrevocable? I don't know. I don't know what Joe Biden can do as a president to turn things around on the international scene. I think the damage that he's done will be with us for many, many years. Noam Chomsky called him the greatest criminal in history simply on the basis of his climate change record. I mean, the damage he may have done when it comes to the fight against climate change, that may be irrevocable.
Yeah. Last question. I love how you don't put up with normalizing bullshit answers from politicians and bureaucrats. It's my favorite thing about you.
Thank you.
Do you think, though, that Trump has opened the door for more like him to walk through that type of non-answering politician? Or do you think maybe there's more people like you, who are helping to shut that type of door?
It's such a great question, and I'm glad you asked it because on both ends, I think you've pinpointed something. Right now I do a show on Peacock every night, but before that I was doing a show for Al Jazeera English. I interview people from around the world, and what I noticed since 2016 is this is interesting. Politicians from African countries and Asian countries, they all sound like Trump now. Everyone's borrowed from the Trump playbook. They all say fake news. They all deny the undeniable. They all just make stuff up live on air. It's just crazy. And I think even in the US, the Republican Party, you're seeing the mini Trumps in Florida, people like Ron DeSantis and Matt Gaetz. You're seeing, some of the Tom Cottons and Josh Hawleys. You're seeing Don Jr. probably might run at one point. There is this sense of mini Trumps. People have seen that attacking the media works. It works on the Republican side of the aisle. Attacking the free press, attacking facts, attacking people who, alternative facts now has some meaning in Republican and right-wing circles. So, yes, sadly, I do think we're going to see more of it. It can't be undone. But to go back to what you just said also, there are more and more interviewers, I think, who are being tougher. And I enjoy that. I've seen that in real time. And I think that's important. because we cannot normalize this stuff. That is the road to authoritarianism and fascism. This idea, remember, the Trump plan was never to say, I'm right, they're wrong. They want you to believe that no one's telling the truth, so that you believe no one.
It's Orwellian. You shut down the belief in everything, so they'll believe anything. It's pretty much. Mehdi, we appreciate you, and good luck with your Peacock show, and we appreciate you keeping it 100 at all times. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you so much.